Hey everybody, what's up? This is Christian Stans. I'm super excited about today's episode of Welcome to the Sandbox. Today we are interviewing two of my favorite bass players, John Patitucci and Ben Williams. What's going on, guys?
Hey,
What's up?
nice to be here.
Yeah, man.
What's happening?
Thank you guys for coming through to the Sandbox.
And thanks for having me.
Yeah. So, how is everybody doing? I know we've been in quarantine. I know we've been inside for this whole time for the 2020, most of 2020. So how's everybody feeling right now?
Go ahead, Ben. I haven't seen you in a while. I want to hear what's happening.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's how are you doing is like the most loaded question of 2020. But I can say overall it's been good. Just trying to stay productive and positive and just one day at a time. There's a lot of stuff to just deal with on a, I think mentally and spiritually for everyone. It's a very trying time, I think, for a lot of folks in a lot of different ways.
Most definitely.
So, just trying to, see, look for the opportunities and all this. This time that we have, and instead of focusing on what we lost and what we're not doing. So that's kind of been my main focus.
Yeah. What about you, John?
I totally agree. Our family has been taking the time pretty seriously. I mean, the most of us have been out on the street protesting, but also just looking at. I mean, it's a boy. We could talk about this for hours, really, and weeks and months and days. But for me, trying to reach out and do whatever I can, I think you feel paralyzed sometimes when something is so wrong for so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a lot of friends in because of my faith in different communities, and one of my friends is a pastor of a Baptist church in Yonkers, and we've been doing things, partnering and doing stuff for a while. And those are the kind of people that, for me, I've been really encouraged by, because he's been doing some amazing work there in Yonkers. And we did a march in Yonkers and a protest, and but he's made such an impact on his community. So I look at that and I get hopeful. The police and the systemic racism and all that's another story. That seems like it's a huge mountain. It's gonna, I mean, that's a big thing it's gonna take time.
Yeah, definitely. Most definitely. Let's come back to that, because I actually want to talk to you both specifically on that. But right now, let's just start from here. Let's talk about bass, man. I absolutely love the bass. I always wish that I could play bass, so I use my left hand on the piano. That's my substitute. But you both have influenced the way I hear the bottom of the instrument. So I wanted to talk to you guys about bass influences. Let's talk with you, John. So when you start, 'cause you started at 12 years old, right?
Well,
roughly.
I started at 10 playing electric bass. Before that, I was singing. I had percussion instruments. I wanted to play the guitar. My brother plays. Yeah. But it didn't feel right, and I'm lefty, and I play righty, and the pick was just could not hang. And I heard the thing that really made me want to really play the bass was James Jamerson on Stevie Wonder's. There's two records that I heard. They were hit singles at the time in the 60s, and one of them was For Once in My Life, and the other one was I Was Made to Love Her. Those two sort of changed. That, and then the blues records we heard, B.B. King on the station in New York, which was it PLJ back in then? But anyway, B.B. King sort of was a pioneer in crossing over into pop radio. Mm-hmm. You'd hear B.B. King on the radio then. Yeah. And that changed my world. Then I heard Wes. My grandfather brought home all these records. I heard Wes with Ron Carter on those records. And I heard also Oscar Peterson records with Ray, and some Monk records, which would have been I'm not sure whether it was Abdul Malik or it was too early for Larry Gales. But anyway, I heard a lot of different stuff early.
Yeah.
And I heard one of the records that really shook me was a record. Little did I know that this man would become like a second father. But Wayne Shorter on Mosaic with Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. And Jimmy Merritt was powerful too. Doesn't get enough credit. But so Ron and Ray were the first two master acoustic guys, and on the electric it was James Jamerson, then it was Willie Weeks, and it was Chuck Rainey. And a little bit of Jerry Jermott thrown in too.
Take that. I see you testifying on this, Ben.
Oh yeah, that sounds like almost identical to my list. It's really interesting, listening to different guys' stories about how they started bass. I feel like most of the stories, usually you want to play something else and you end up playing. I feel like most people end up playing the bass. But actually, I wanted to play guitar as well. I was still really into Prince.
Yeah, come on.
He was one of my first, I think, just inspirations of being a musician. Because obviously he's such a big like pop star. Yeah. But he could play all the instruments too, and I was like, man, he could play guitar and piano. He could do everything, and he like wrote all the songs. So
he played drums too, right?
Oh yeah. And a lot of those, especially his earlier records, he played everything on the album.
Right.
So yeah, I actually wanted to be a guitar player at first, and so I started playing bass at 11, and I started middle school in the 7th grade, and they had an arts program. This is in DC, where I grew up, and it was great. All the kids, we had one day a week we had an arts block in the afternoon, so you sign up for whatever type of art classes you were interested in. And I was already playing a little bit of piano, just by ear. I didn't know how to read or anything, but I wanted to learn how to play guitar. But everybody wants to play guitar, so it was like the first class to get filled up. So by the time I got there, all the spots were filled up. So I just kind of picked the next best thing in my head. It was the orchestral strings class, and I just went for the bass. I was 11, so I can't tell you what I was thinking about, but it just happened.
Yeah.
And but musically, my early influences very similar to the people that you named, John. James Jamerson. My mom was a huge Motown fan, so that's a whole lot of what I heard in the house. Unknowingly, just growing up, hearing James Jamerson pretty much all my life.
Yeah.
So that was sort of an unconscious reference.
In
my head.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember the first acoustic bass recording you ever heard?
Yeah. So when the first jazz record I got, so I was studying with this great saxophonist in the DC area. Who was a great teacher. Just passed away last year, actually, Fred Foss.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the one who first exposed me to jazz. He gave me my first couple of records to check out. The first one being Kind of Blue.
Mm. Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And a Charles Mingus record called Blues and Roots.
Yeah.
So he was like, start there, take it home, and check this out. And so Paul Chambers was probably my first main influence as an acoustic bass player.
Yeah.
And Charles, Mingus, that kind of scared me a little bit.
Yeah.
Whoa. I'm like, I'm supposed to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know about that. But yeah, and Ron, Ray Brown, Oscar Pettiford, those are the first guys that kind of enter into my awareness of the bass. And, and the gentleman that I'm looking at right now.
Oh,
that's right.
I'm not just saying that, but very much influenced.
Yeah. That's right. So now you guys growing up, I know Ben, growing up in DC, there's just, a ton of outlets, especially at the time, a ton of outlets of musicians, I mean, DC's super creative, and Brooklyn, for you, John, I mean, the list goes on and on for just like really interesting innovators,
and they were living not far from me. I just didn't know it.
Oh, yeah.
Because later on I met, I played with Freddie Hubbard.
Right.
And some of these guys. And when I told them I was from Brooklyn, they got all happy.
Right.
Because they lived there.
Right.
I think Joe Henderson lived there too. Max Roach was there. A bunch of them were there. Yeah. But I was so young. I was just a kid playing, street games. I was playing slap ball and stick ball and all that. And I didn't. But it was all around me. See, jazz came and got me. My grandfather's father had a speakeasy in Brooklyn during Prohibition.
Oh, dig, yeah.
And he liked stride piano. He was like one of those guys who never made it past the sophomore year of high school. He ran away and stuff. But he, so they said, well, if you're not going to stay in school, you got to work in the speakeasy. So he heard probably some amazing, because he loved stride piano.
Yeah.
And he used to try to play a little bit. But
it's
then
hard.
well, he wasn't really playing any stride, but I remember some holidays. He had a good ear.
Yeah.
He was picking out some tunes and only on holidays, he would go to the piano a little bit. But as soon as he sensed me in the room, he would stop. So I think the music came through him. But growing up in Brooklyn, I was born in 59 in the 60s. It was all around me.
Yeah.
I just didn't know it yet.
Yeah. Because I was going to ask, like Ben, we came up through the jazz institutions, jazz summer programs, being in these ensembles during high schools, college, for you, they didn't really have those. So you were learning this from just being in the neighborhood.
And not even knowing. It really came in through the records. I didn't realize that these guys were living in New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the weird thing is then we moved to California, and that's when I was in a school that actually had a music program. And when I lived in New York, I was in a Catholic school when I was a kid. There was one lady sitting at the piano and we'd sing with her. That was it.
Yeah.
And so then I got to California and I was in the Bay Area, which was also an amazing scene in the 70s.
Yeah.
And that's the first time I had access to an acoustic bass. I didn't get to play an acoustic bass until I was 15.
Wow.
There were none around.
Yeah.
And I was kind of short too. I couldn't even hold one until then.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah.
So now, what I also love about the two of you, you guys have very interesting and similar stories. You both were born in December. You both, I think, Ben, you're the 22nd, right?
28th.
You're 28th, and John, you're the 22nd.
Yeah, and my daughter, Bella, is born on the 28th.
Oh, so, wow. See?
And you know what's funny, too? She was conceived. I'm the 22nd, Bella's the 28th. And the funny thing is, you're from D.C., right? My wife and I know exactly that she was conceived in D.C. I was there I was teaching at the Betty Carter.
Don't worry, Bella, we'll edit this out. Don't worry.
Betty Carter Jazz Ahead. No, I was just and my wife was with me. Yeah.
That's in the spring. Yeah.
Oh man. That's it.
Sounds about right.
Jazz Ahead.
Jazz Ahead.
All right,
it's funny. DC.
Get that. Yeah. But aside from you guys, December babies, you're both double on acoustic and electric bass. You both are incredible leaders in your own right, but you also had been playing with these really incredible, innovative musicians. I just want to talk about that real quick, especially for you, John, because you working with Chick. You working with the works. But let's go back to your first record. Let's go back to that. Jonathan Patitucci, right? And
it's funny you call me that.
I know.
Chick calls me Jonathan sometimes. I'm not a Jonathan, but that's my nickname. Yeah. He used to call me, because there was a book years ago called Jonathan Livingston Seagull or whatever, some weird little book. Yeah. So he used to call me Jonathan Livingston Patitucci. Then it became Livingston. I don't know. It's like, I don't know. Anyway. Yeah.
So the first record, right? So Chick produced that record, correct?
Yes,
right?
and actually, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have had that record deal.
Mm.
They didn't want to sign me. They signed the saxophone player, Eric, in the band.
Yeah.
They wanted a saxophone player, and he's great too. He's
Yeah.
amazing and a dear friend.
Yeah.
But then Chick said, "Well, you got to sign my bass player," and they said, "We don't want." He said, "Look, man, he's a composer." They wanted to hear demos.
Yeah.
And he said, "No, you'll hear the record when it's finished."
Ooh. Yeah.
They said, "Well, okay, well then you have to produce it." He said, "Sure, I'll help him." So he came to me then and said, "Look, they want me to produce your record, which means that I know you know what you want to do." But he said, "I'll help you learn how to make records and do all that, and I'll help you." And he did, man. He helped me do budgets, and he helped me organize everything. And then I said, "But wait a minute, you got to play on it."
Right.
And he said, "Sure, I'll play on it."
Yeah. Yeah, could you have Chick? You got John Beasley on that. You got who else? Dave Weckl, Michael Brecker.
Peter Erskine.
Yeah.
Vinny Colaiuta's on that.
Yeah.
Record.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, a bunch of folks.
Nobody that can really play, right? Just nobody that can really deal with the music. No, man. So, and I believe it was #1 on Billboard for top jazz.
It was for a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, 1980, 87?
Maybe
86, 87?
Came out in 88, I think.
Dig that. Yeah. So how was that for your? This was your first project. Because I always ask these artists. When you get the opportunity to make your first record, like what's that feeling like?
Well,
especially
again,
with the cast that you're recording with too.
Yeah, I mean, it was a thrill. The thing about it was I had been with Chick for a couple of years, and what happened how it came about actually was I would sometimes sit at the piano and see, what do you think of this? I'm writing this, and he would go, "Man, what are you doing?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, you should have a band and you should be making records with this music on it." And I'm like, "Well, sounds great. Nice work if you can get it,
Right.
And he was like, "No, I'll take care of that." So once we finally got to do it, it was a big dream come true. Mm-hmm. Having all those people, and then the people on subsequent records that I had too. After that, like on my second record, I got to have Al Foster and all these different guys, and then I branched. I got all the Brazilian guys and some African musicians, and I got to play with all these people that I really looked up to.
Yeah. Dig that. Yeah. And you've been State of Art. I remember that record well. Gerald Clayton on that. Who was playing drums? Was that Jamire Williams on that? Yeah. Marcus Strickland, Matt Stevens.
Yep.
Yeah, man. Am I forgetting anybody? I don't think I'm forgetting anybody.
Jaleel was on a couple.
Oh, yeah. Jaleel was on that. Yeah, that's right.
Actually, Etienne was playing percussion.
Oh, right. His multifaceted self.
Yeah.
That's right. So for you, I mean, because you're coming from, especially at that time, I think you were with Stefan. You did like Urbanus with Stefan Harris.
Yeah.
And then you did your record, and then you joined Pat Metheny. Was that it? Yeah.
As part of the prize, you get a deal with Concord.
Right.
And so that kind of really helped to sort of get the ball rolling with just leading a band, because when you have this opportunity to make a record like that, it's like, okay, what are you gonna record? What are you gonna put on this record?
Right.
So I was doing a little bit of writing before, but it kind of really got me more into composing and arranging, and just doing gigs as a band leader. So yeah, I always say, like, being a bass player and a band leader is definitely a labor of love, because you don't really have to do it. Most of us are usually busy enough. We can just kind of sustain ourselves and
right.
Have wonderful careers just as sidemen. But a lot of my favorite composers, and I think a lot of my favorite records are made by bass players.
Yeah.
So I might be a little biased, but I think we have a very unique experience. We get so much experience playing with a lot of different people. We have we really get to see how a lot of different band leaders operate from the inside.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
a lot of that can really inform what you end up doing as a band leader. Like working with Stefan and seeing how he runs his band and like his writing, and I was touring a lot with Jackie Terrison with his trio for a minute, and working with a little bit with a lot of other different people. Just seeing how everybody does it differently. I think that it really kind of helped me shape my own ideas of like what I would do if I.
Yeah. What did you learn from playing with Pat that you brought into your bands?
Wow, he's
other than bringing plants and putting them on stage and setting the scene up.
Oh man. Well, I mean, that's kind of just that's part of it. You've recorded and with Pat as well. I know you worked with Pat as well, John. So he's very just relentless. So just so one of the most driven people I've ever worked with. He's he's not bound by, you never feel like he's bound by his creativity, whatever idea he may have in his head for a project, as wild and as wacky as it may seem.
Yeah.
He'll put just, he'll just stay up for days sometimes just working on stuff,
Yeah.
And not sleeping. So he's like, he's just got this this unbelievable passion for the music, and his work ethic is just it's crazy,
Yeah.
So and the music, that just kind of speaks for itself. He's like when you get to go on the road and work with a lot of these guys, you get to understand like why they're so great, to see them, get to know them as people and talk to them about music and like, who they listen to and who they check out.
Yeah.
Pat, he listens to everything. He's so, different genres, what really surprised me, he was just how in tune he is to the younger generation.
Right. Because you told me, he was like, yeah, man, Pat digs your playing. And I had never met him before.
Man,
I didn't think he knew I existed. You were like, yeah, man, he likes your playing. I remember you said that one day.
Man, he checks out everybody, man.
Yeah. And then I got a follow on Twitter from him, and I was like, oh man, all right. He's into it. Yeah.
That's man. He's got his ear to the streets and his eye on everything. So,
yeah.
It was a life-changing experience.
So now you guys, you've have all this experience, especially you, John, and you've influenced so many musicians, Ben and I included, so now, remember before we started this, you told me that you were starting to do film scoring now. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, a really great friend of mine who's, again, a pastor who grew up in the South Bronx, and a really tough thing. He became a pastor.
Yeah.
And he made that film called Emmanuel about the church shooting in South Carolina. And, he'd been talking to me. I'd known him a long time. He said, he reminded me that actually he said, man, I want you to write some music for this film. And I hadn't done any yet. I played on a lot of films, and I maybe helped with some music, writing a little bit for a tiny short thing, but I've been composing for years and doing classical commissions and stuff. So I wanted to do it, but I didn't think I was going to get a chance. I thought, well, there's so many guys that do that. So he came back around. He said, I was trying to get you on Emmanuel. That won an award too and everything. But Viola Davis and somebody else, Steph Curry, were also producers, and they had somebody that they wanted to do it. So my friend's name is Dimas Salaberios. He called me back again recently, like about 2.5 weeks ago, and said, man, I got this film. I need you to write the music. I was like scared. because all of a sudden, bam, and it's like, it's got to be done by the end of August.
Yeah.
And so I've been writing solid for like the last 2 weeks, and I got it pretty much under control now, but I was scared to death.
Yeah. So now writing for film, is there anything that you look for? Do you get a chance to see the film first, or do you have the script?
Yes,
or
absolutely. He sent me a cut of the film, and it was so deep because it's called Chicago, America's Hidden War, and it's about all the gang violence and also the police corruption and the brutality, and all. It's a very specific documentary about the suffering of people of color in the South Side of Chicago. He interviewed all these people, but it does bring some hope too. Yeah. But it's heavy. I mean, there was some stuff in it that, I started getting really attached to every character because there's some amazing people. And, but I was so afraid. I told you before when he first came to me, he said, I need you to write the music. I said, man, why don't you get Terrence Blanchard, because he could do a great job. Yeah. And I was just scared. I was like, this film is important. Yeah. It's a little documentary. I mean, it's not like a big budget thing. But the subject matter is exactly what I'm passionate about. Yeah. So that made it even more heavy because it's like, man, I can't screw this up, man. I gotta, So I started praying. I was scared, and then like the next day, stuff started coming. I went to the piano, started writing, and then and I'm also employing all these different people. Like one of the guys playing who sent me some stuff is Isaiah Sharkey from Chicago, who's an amazing guitarist, and Jimmy Green, actually Sullivan Fortin is going to play. Come on. And, and then I've got some string quartet stuff. Yeah. And a lot of bass stuff, like electric bass stuff, electric bass choirs and some bowed bass choirs. And then I have this old friend of mine, Steve Tavoloni, who was on he was in my band years ago, who became one of the most important EWI and synthesizer guys in LA. He's a great player, saxophone player. Yeah. But so he'll take maybe if I send him a bass choir of these Arco basses, he'll run it through some stuff and it'll come back, and I'll use the real thing in the movie, but also the thing that he derived from that. Wow. The background. Yeah. But it'll have some of you can hear some of the stuff emerging out of this organic structure that he made. So it's fascinating to me. Luckily, Demos and I are really good friends, and he's the director producer. So I played him a bunch of the music, and he really liked it. Thank God. So we're it's really heavy though. I mean, it's really emotional, and it's the kind of thing where I can't get it out. I've been dominated by these images and these people now for 2 weeks. That's all I've thought about. Wow. Yeah. And it's see this. Yeah, right. I can't wait to see this, hear this, and take all this in. He was into having some blues and some soulful music in it, so and all the guys that are playing on it are they're serious. So it's called Chicago. It's going to be called Chicago, America's Hidden War. Okay. All right. Remember that, Chicago, America's Hidden War. And Ben, speaking of all of this, speaking of the time that we're living in, speaking of just scoring to life and to, things that have happened in people's lives. Your latest record, I'm a Man, kind of scores Memphis, and the Memphis riots and the Memphis, sanitation workers strike. Exactly. Wow. Yeah. So, so basically, the last album I just did, it's called "I Am a Man," and so that phrase was the mantra for the 1968 Memphis sanitation workers strike, in which it was a big worker strike with the black sanitation workers in Memphis, and they were just they went on strike because of poor working conditions and just unfair. I think two workers had been killed, right? 2 workers were killed on the job, and it was just
one of those was kind of the tipping point of just a lot of unfair, unsafe working conditions, and they went on strike, and actually, they had called Dr. King, Martin Luther King, to come down and endorse the strike and come down there for their support. Which is the reason why he was in Memphis when he was assassinated.
Right.
Wow.
Like the day before or something like that, right?
And he gave that famous speech where he talks about the promised land, and I might not get there with you, but
Yes,
right. I've been to the mountaintop. Yeah. That's right.
Exactly. That speech was the night before he was assassinated.
Yeah.
In Memphis. It's like it's just chilling every time I watch that video. It's like he knew.
Yeah.
His time was up, and he gave, he knew what his work was. He gave his life for it. So so that's kind of the impetus for the title, but I kind of, it's not really specifically about that strike. It's more about the sentiment of the phrase, "I am a man." I'm just trying to bring that into like a modern context. So just kind of, I deal with different issues. So I sort of try to get into the head of the, just try to unpack the phrase itself. Like, I'm a, what would that mean? What did that mean to them? Why did they feel the need, these men to have to, make that statement that I'm a man, obviously they weren't treated as that. So, but I sort of, that became like the theme, which like brought into these different subjects, talking about the experience of just being a black man in America. On different levels, dealing with like spirituality, police brutality, even addiction. And just kind of all these, just the layered existence of being, being a black man in America.
Yeah.
So, sort of like using that phrase as inspiration, and, filtering it through my own experiences, and, just trying to touch on different subjects. And, the intent of the album wasn't really about making a protest record, quote unquote.
Yeah.
It was more about the humanity, really talking about our humanity as a people, as a culture.
Yeah.
And, just how layered and how complex it is. So. I'm singing, and this is my first time singing.
Yeah, and I was going to mention that too. This is a different type of record, not only because I call it, a demonstration record, or, but you're also using your voice literally.
Yeah.
On this record.
I can't wait to hear it. I want to hear it. Yeah.
Which I knew you sang a little, because we would always go back and forth, and then I found out, I heard the record, I was like, oh, he's singing for real on this. Yeah, he meant this. All right.
Messed around, did a whole album.
I was like, all right, But yeah, man,
great.
I absolutely love that record. I tell everybody to go get it. Last question. I'm gonna give you this last question, and it's a fun question. This is something that I always want to ask every bass player. If you could be, or actually, I'll say this: if you could put together a fantasy band, who would it be, and why? I'll start with you. I'll start with you, Ben. We'll get Ben. We'll give John something to think about, because he's got a lot of cats. So,
do I have to play bass?
Yeah, you got to play bass, of course. You can have two basses in it,
Okay.
if you want. It's your band, Bleak.
Okay. Wow. Let's see. I have Tony Williams on drums.
Already.
It's a fantasy band, so I'm gonna have I have Cannonball on alto.
That's cheating.
Trey on sax.
Okay.
Freddie Hubbard on trumpet.
That's cheating again. I'm kidding.
Wait. What were the other rules? What?
Yeah, go. Keep going.
Oh,
keep going.
I didn't know the guidelines.
No, I'm joking.
I'll have on guitar. Let's see.
That's a lot of pyrotechnics right now.
Pat Metheny on guitar. And, say Monk on piano.
Wow.
I'm with that.
Nancy Wilson would be the vocalist.
Ooh.
Yes, vocalist.
All right. Okay.
Man. You know, I really there's so many bands that I would like to put together, but I would love to be in Train's band. Train, McCoy, and Elvin. That's enough for me.
Yeah.
I would be in heaven, I think. I mean, there's a bunch of other bands. I mean, guitar players, like you were talking about guitar players. I would like Wes and Sco and people like that. And if we were able to have more saxophone players, yes, or horn players, Freddie, because I played with Freddie and he was incredible. Singers, I love also what Ben said. I got to play with Nancy Wilson at one of those Monk things, and it was one of the highlights of my life. It was one of the highlights of my life.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
But also, I also loved the lady that kind of influenced her was Dinah Washington. I think had an impact. Although she says little Jimmy Scott a lot, but I hear Dinah in her too. But also, I mean, there's so many people. Like if I played 5 minutes with Duke Ellington, I think or Monk. Monk was this huge hero for me.
Right.
Wynton Kelly. There's so many players, but if I had to narrow it down, just throw me in the Train quartet and maybe let me play next to Jimmy.
Right.
Just so I can feel that up close.
Yeah.
I never got to.
Dig it.
Too young.
Man. Well, thank you guys very much for joining me here. You know, I truly appreciate it. We definitely have to do this again because I think, this is fun. We got to do more of this, man. Just either on here or just, we'll do some Zoom sessions or something, some FaceTime. Right. But thank you very much.
Well, I want to say too, man, bass players, it is a brotherhood and it's a community. And, ever since I first heard Ben, I love his playing and not just his playing, but the person, the man. Yeah. And that's something about a lot of the guys. Oh man, a lot of the guys that I know that play the bass. Part of our role is to be the glue, the mediator, the peacemaker. And Ben, he carries that with him. I can feel his spirit when he's around and when he's playing for sure.
That's right.
And same with you, Christian, man. I love the way you play.
Oh man, thank you.
And I want to play.
Thank you. I know we got some playing to do.
Yes.
Well, thank you guys very much. Please be safe. Hello to your loved ones. Be careful out here and keep on keeping on.
Right.
All right, y'all.
Happy, man.
Definitely.
All right, man.
See y'all.
You too.